Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Today we'll hear from 3 technical agencies about the types of projects that they take on and how they tackle complex projects. My name is Kinsey Hart. I work here at Upwork on the freelancer and agency success team. My team manages the supply side strategy and operations. We work to activate, grow, and retain talent on Upwork. And in my role, I work very closely with agencies. We have a range of agencies on Upwork, from a couple of team members to hundreds of team members, and agencies work across many different project categories, in particular with a strong supply in the web and mobile development space. The technical agencies here today are part of our premium agency program. And our premium program is a group of agencies that have gone through additional vetting with Upwork. They have impressive experience on and off Upwork doing projects for a range of clients, from startups to Fortune 500 businesses. They provide project managers to oversee work and communicate with clients, and have teams with diverse skill sets to tackle complex challenges. With that, I'll hand it over to one of our first panelists, Aleksandr, to introduce himself and his agency, Beluga Labs.
Hello, everybody. It's nice meeting you. So my name is Aleksandr, and I represent the company called Beluga Labs. We are based out of New York metro area. We've been in business for a little bit over 7 years, and we're a team of 30 individuals. Mostly programmers, project managers, and designers. Our core specialty, our core proficiency is web-based projects. Basically, the bread and butter of what we do is, building websites of various complexity. We work with different industries, ranging from biomedical startups to major universities, and from local restaurants to Fortune 500 companies. We specialize in both front-end and back-end development, and we work with, popular CMS solutions like WordPress and Shopify, as well as completely custom development, mostly using Laravel and E frameworks.
Great, thanks, Alex. Now, Nicholas, can you introduce yourself and Código del Sur?
Hi, everybody. My name is Nicolás Marele. I'm the CEO and founder of Código del Sur. Código del Sur is based out in Uruguay, South America. We are in EST+1 time zone. We are a team of 80 persons. We have been in business for the past 10 years. We have developed over 200 mobile and web apps. That's our specialty, mobile and web development, both for startups and mid-sized companies in the US. Mainly 90% of our customers are in the US. So yeah, that's a bit about us.
All right, thanks, Nicholas. And then Helen, will you introduce yourself and MobiDev?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I am pleased to participate in this webinar and represent my company, MobiDev. We are actually Upwork Best Agency Award winner during several latest years, to our great pleasure. And we have had quite a fruitful cooperation history with Upwork as a platform, and truly hope that today's webinar will come and help for the audience, and both parties will benefit from making new connections and probably even starting new partnerships. Actually, our team has been providing full cycle development services starting from requirement solicitation up to business and technical analysis, UI UX design, then up to development, quality assurance, and the actual launch and release for more than 8 years so far. With business offices in the United States and the United Kingdom and development offices in Ukraine, we managed to set quite a high services level and are willing to offer top dedicated talents, established processes, and a communication schedule convenient for both parties. So our clients are coming from actually various industries and are both experienced startuppers and representatives of established businesses and enterprise level organizations from, as I already said, various industries like HoReCa, financial, manufacturing, large-scale industries, and many others. In addition, we might also come into assistance for starting businesses and startups. For any client with his or her goals and requirements, MobiDev is actually here to become your reliable development partner. Enjoy the webinar.
All right, thanks, Helen. So a few things to remember during today's webinar. We will be answering your questions most likely towards the end of the webinar, but please feel free to submit questions throughout. And you can do that by going to your control panel and typing in under questions any things you would like to ask the panelists. Our webinar is being recorded and you'll receive a recording of the webinar tomorrow via email. So today's agenda, we'll go through a little bit about what clients face today, some of the current issues, what problems they look to agencies to help solve, how agencies break those problems down, and how they estimate the budgets and timelines for clients. So what clients face today? So as the world is becoming increasingly digital, there's this increased need to find top technical talent. Local areas are struggling to keep up with training and educating tech talent to keep up with this pace of demand. We found that IT hiring managers said that it's 3 times as hard this year to find technical talent than it was in the last year. And in general, it will take longer to find technical talent, so around 10 days longer to fill versus other skills. And it's really critical having strong technical talent and building the strong base code is really important to businesses for their success. And then many clients tap into agencies on Upwork. So as you mentioned, we have a range of agencies on the platform, and this includes over 7,000 technical agencies who are active, and they have different expertises from very specialized accounts to full cycle development consulting firms. There's a range of sizes on the platform, and in general, clients tend to really like working with agencies. They get a lot of additional support and the ability to ramp up and down on projects, and just the expertise of having project managers and a range of skill sets. So we'll go ahead and dive in with the panelists. And Alex, would you start with this first question of what's the biggest or most interesting project that you've tackled on Upwork?
Sure. So over the course of 7 years, we've tackled numerous interesting and big projects on and off Upwork. But the one that stands out the most out of the more recent projects that we did is Video. Video is one of just 5 companies in New York State to offer medical marijuana to patients throughout the state. The industry had been lacking from innovation due to government limitations, and Video wanted to do something different. They wanted to create a simple, straightforward e-commerce experience for patients to quickly and easily order their medical marijuana products for pickup or delivery. Working around government regulations and video company policies, we were able to develop a system that worked for everyone and provided a good experience to the user. We developed a custom geography-based delivery time slot module, peak time slot module, integration with third-party dispatch software, and many more marketing and day-to-day operation features. The Video's team is able to seamlessly add new delivery areas, set up time slots for those areas, and availability of deliveries for each time slot. All of Video's orders are routed to OnFleet for dispatch to drivers, and order statuses are exchanged between the 2 systems. There are countless additional features that we built. Ability for administrators to seamlessly put phone orders through the e-commerce system, custom order reports and statistics for marketing purposes, deep integration with HubSpot, ID and prescription verification system. This is the core of what we developed for this company. The client has seen an astronomical growth in sales as the convenience of delivery had absolutely trumped their previous pickup online model. Accessibility is helping Video become the only and the best choice in medical marijuana distribution in New York. In addition, we're collecting statistics on where Video does not currently offer delivery to keep them informed on where to set their sites for future markets. Our client's problem was twofold. The first was developing a system that would work with their current business model, and the second was developing a system that would work within the confines of government regulations. We were able to scope all of the limitations and rules and deliver a system that seamlessly navigates both. That's basically the core of what we did for this client.
Awesome, thanks, Alex. And what was it that you made it feel like it was a good fit for an agency, that project? How did you know when the client was introducing the problem that was something that your agency was going to be able to help solve?
Well, it was just a very interesting project. I mean, this is a pretty well-known companies. They've been all over the news. They were one of the only companies to actually do the deliveries in New York State. This was kind of a breakthrough, for the patients that needed that type of product. And of course, the project itself, was interesting and fit our core capabilities. So during the numerous meetings and conference calls that we had with the client, we were able to, create a good requirement sheet that allowed us to build something that, met and exceeded clients' expectation. I mean, their business literally like blew up because they're the only one doing the delivery.
That's awesome. Nicholas, can you tell us about one of the biggest projects that you've tackled on Upwork with Código Sir?
Sure. The biggest project by far that we tackled on Upwork is Scout, which is a dating mobile application. Scout right now has over 300 million users that use it. It was an application that started on the dating area much sooner than even Tinder. So it was a kind of a pioneer in the dating mobile apps. Right now, it was acquired recently by another company. They received a $20 million investment by Andreessen Horowitz. They have been for 4 years in a row in the top 10 on the social networking category in the App Store. So that's certainly, from the over 200 apps that we have created so far, the most successful app, right? That let us obviously deal with 100 different problems. Creating an application that 300 million people use has a lot of challenges, technical challenges, business challenges, a lot of things that you need to solve. So it has been, for us, a great experience to be part of the project.
That's great. And were you guys involved from creating that app from the ground up? So figuring out how to match people and how people would interact with the application?
Good question. The short history on Scout is that the application was created, the first prototype by their founders, two guys from Sweden that live in San Francisco, and they came to us when the application was starting to have some success with a few thousand users. And the problem that we were having, the model was validated. The problem that they were having was scaling that from the technical perspective. The application was crashing. At that time, the connections were very limited, very slow connection. So they were having a lot of technical problems due to the success that they were having at that time. So our first job was to make the application stable for those few thousand users, and then continue the development of new features. We participated. One of the things that we do as we are not just a mobile development company, we are a mobile product creation company. So we participate actively in all the aspects besides the technical one, and we did that with the Scout too, along the years that we work with them.
That's great. Thanks for that. Helen, are you able to give us an example of the biggest or most interesting project that MobiDev has tackled on Upwork?
Yes, absolutely. So there are actually multiple interesting projects we have won at Upwork, and one of the most interesting ones is actually a project for a German big manufacturer that involved creating a huge management system for this enterprise organization. We actually started with one subsystem, and then it transformed into a big ERP infrastructure. The client needed the project built from scratch and wanted to find a reliable development partner for a long-term partnership. That's where actually MobiDev has become a great fit with our big in-house pool of dedicated talents, more than 250 people so far, and then capabilities to cover various types of design and development activities. At this project, there was a team of project manager, several full-time developers, backend and frontend, UI/UX designer, quality assurance engineer, at the very beginning of our collaboration. So it was just a starting team composition, so to say. And then it has grown into a big team composed of sub teams, each working for a particular ERP system segment. And the biggest advantage of this software for the client is actually a chance to optimize their everyday business activities, saving their employees' time and reducing chances for making mistakes, which eventually results into saving financial resources.
Great. And can you talk a little bit more about kind of the features that you built out for this ERP infrastructure?
Yeah, sure. So as you all probably know, ERP are usually quite huge systems being composed of several subsystems of some software components. So our case was not an exclusion. As I mentioned, we started only with one system, which was warehouse management system. Then we had to add CRM, accounting module, then inventory management software, and actually all the modules that were typical and that were a fit for this particular client's everyday activities. So actually, we created a huge custom ERP system. So yes, there are modules which I already named, which are quite typical for almost any ERP, but then we also created some additional modules which were typical for this kind of manufacturing, for this kind of business. So this is a great example of why custom systems, especially why custom management systems of a huge scale like ERPs are better to be created from scratch in a custom way than just like customized on the basis of some bought template, because it is really a huge risk when it comes to really having a deal with the actual business and its everyday activities. I mean that the price of such a risk for a big business is too high just to buy some existing software and then facing that the employees find it difficult to work with this third-party software instead of just like deciding to invest some financial resources into building such a system for your company from scratch.
Great, thanks, Helen. We also have a question from a participant around how are you tackling requirements, engineering requirements with global clients?
Should I answer this question first, or?
Yeah, go ahead, since your client was German, right?
Yeah, so actually we have had so far during those 8 years quite a wide geography of our clients' locations, so to say. So the main point here is really having a person of contact, a constant person of contact for our clients. So at the pre-contract stage, it is usually a business development manager from our side. So the main point for us as a potential development partner is to schedule a really convenient communication, again, schedule for both parties. So even though we are located in Ukraine, it allows us to have calls with both the clients from the United States and then Asian region, or like, and as you might understand, having clients from Europe and like scheduling some calls for them, it's not a challenge at all. So I think the main point for us as a development partner is to show our flexibility and really to then assign those talents to the project who will be able to get adjusted to the client's schedule. So if the client is in PST time zone, then for us it will be evening time to work more efficiently and then to present some results to our client who has like his morning time while we have the end of our working day. So I mean, it is all customizable. We are all flexible. So I think the main point here is that the both parties should be interested in this partnership, and that's all. Then it's only a small deal of being flexible.
That makes a lot of sense. So having really strong project management and communication between the client makes these global projects run pretty seamlessly. So awesome. We've heard a little bit about quite a range of projects that have been done, from a delivery and ordering application to a dating site that's matching people around the world, and to a more traditional ERP infrastructure custom build out. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into these projects. And Nicholas, will you start by telling us a bit about how you transformed Scout's problem into a project?
Okay, sure. Yes, basically the way that we use for Scout, which is actually the way that we work in almost all projects that we tackle, is using agile and lean product development strategies, right? So basically the idea is to focus on small pieces of problems and what's the most valuable thing for the product at that particular stage, and focus on that and discard the rest for when the time comes, right? So not to make a big plans or big big project plans, but focus on the current sprint. That means on what is valuable for the product in these next 2 weeks. Go for that, plan that, go for that, deliver that, and then continue evolving and solving that problem and creating that product on a iterative and agile way. So that's basically what we did for Scout, and that's basically how we tackle almost all the projects that we work at, right?
Great. So yeah, Codegoster takes on a very agile approach, doesn't do a whole lot of mapping out of requirements at the beginning. Alex, how do you guys do it at Beluga Labs?
Hello? Yeah, so each project is different, and I think, to Nicholas's point, that this was kind of an existing application and already kind of had some traction. So, our challenge was a bit different. The project we took on was from scratch. There was nothing like that in existence at the time in New York State. So the client, knew they had a great opportunity in building a delivery system for medical marijuana, because it was just, freshly, with government rules and regulations just freshly became available, and they knew if they capitalize on, on this, they'll be able to dominate the market, and then of course they needed a design and development partner, to take their, essentially just, to take their idea into a functional product. So we obviously, had to, most of our clients are not that technical. Like this client, for example, did not have an internal IT department. There was a biomedical and pharmaceutical folks that, graded what they do, but they didn't have much of a web or application knowledge to be able to kind of scope out the project and, and create the strategic plan for its implementation. So, we did this for, countless, meetings with the client, making suggestions. We basically had to divide the project into several different phases. We had like the launch phase where we needed to build the features that were absolutely critical for launch. And then we were building things on as their business kind of grew, and they, they needed additional functionality that, they were discovering as they're doing their day-to-day business. But, essentially, our approach is, getting involved, giving suggestions to the client's problems, because oftentimes the client does not know how to reach, their goal. They just have a goal in mind, and they rely on us to actually, give them suggestions on how to get there.
That makes sense. So you act as a real thought partner for the client when they're going through their projects and thinking through what the key challenges are and how Beluga Labs can help to approach those.
Right. We just basically, we ask them about the goals, and we suggest them ways to get to that, milestone or that goal.
Okay, great. And Helen, what was MobiDev's approach for transforming this ERP system into a project?
Yeah, so actually our case was somehow similar to Alexander's case. So because we also have had a project from scratch, but on the contrary, we had a client with a technical background and then with a small but still within, so to say, IT department within their company. So sometimes it is even a bigger challenge to deal with a client who has his own opinion on all the technical aspects. On the contrary, like when you have just people who need your consultation on all the aspects. Anyway, we were able to agree on the technical strategy, and one of our services particularities, and as we think advantages, is a permanent consultation and some permanent negotiation process with the client. So we do communicate a lot if the client's schedule actually allows it. In this project, we chose a dedicated team approach, which means that really the client will have talents contributing only to this project, and all the knowledge will be sustained within the same team. So we're actually willing to contribute our skills, expertise, and previous experience to the software plant even before the actual projects start. So even at the pre-contract stage, we try to find out as much information as possible about the client's expectations, goals, requirements, and review any existing project description materials, if any. So then we can consult on the possible tech stack, implementation methods, development approach, stages, and many other aspects of the actual software development process, which we think we are highly skilled at. So, and moreover, a dedicated team will be assigned actually according to the client's requirements, and then some specific skills needed for this particular case. So it was such a case too. As I said at the beginning, it was just a team or 4 or 5 people, and right now these are up to, I think, 20 people working on various subsystems of this ERP project. And a dedicated team from our side spends decent time on requirement solicitation as soon as we have some changes, amendments, or new scope of work from the client. And then we actually, in this particular case, I think the wisest actually decision of both our parties was to spend some decent time on architecture planning, which according to our experience is a vital step in the whole project creation process, especially for such big systems as ERPs.
That makes sense. So there's a lot of upfront work that goes into planning, especially for ERP systems. And so spend a lot of time doing the architecture planning and all of that upfront. Whereas for some more of the applications that are moving from prototype to a more stable app, like Nicholas talked about, an agile approach works well for that. So
yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. And then a follow-up question also from participants. What is the best practice for project management, and what type of project management and collaboration tools do you use with clients? Alex, do you want to take that?
Sure. We use a plethora of tools because sometimes we have to work with the clients, existing kind of information flow. We use Basecamp for our project as our project management tool, but we use Trello, we used Asana, we used Jira, we used a whole, pretty much, we use Podio, we use a wide variety of different systems because, sometimes we have to integrate with what the client's flow is, but internally we use a project management tool, and it's absolutely that's absolutely a requirement because, when you're managing different flows of information, some from the client, some from your team members, you need a system in place that collects it all, and you're able to assign tasks, check the work. It's just absolutely critical. So you can't do a simple project without using something like that. So you can't do it efficiently. And of course, for anything that's it requires multiple people, multiple teams involvement, you absolutely have to have a good system in place and a good, good project flow.
Makes sense. Now, do you have any thoughts on kind of what are best practices for project management?
Yeah, so we do have quite a big team, as I already mentioned. So I totally agree with Aleksandr that it is absolutely must to have those both for external, meaning project management, and some internal processes management. So before, like some time ago, we made a major shift from Redmine, so a project management tool, to well-known Jira. The reason why we made this shift is that we had Jira at multiple projects with our clients. So we thought that having this big integrated common environment for both internal and clients projects would be really beneficial. So in terms of tools, we might be flexible. It is not obligatory to have Jira at every particular project. For some small projects, it doesn't make sense, but if the client has Jira too, or he or she doesn't have any particular preferences, then we can actually set it up in Jira. Regarding the approaches, we do have again, two basic approaches within our teams: dedicated team and fixed price. So for the first one, we use all the possible agile methodologies, and then for the fixed price, it is like actually a simple planning into milestones. So yeah, so actually we have not invented, so to say, our own project management methodology. I would say that we just take the most beneficial points from the existing methodologies, and then we just transform it and customize it up to the client's requirements and their project specifics. That's it.
All right, that makes sense. That's a good segue. So the next question we have is, how do you accurately estimate the cost and timeline of the projects? Nicholas, do you want to talk about that in terms of your project with Scout?
Sure. Basically, in our case, we don't spend too much time, and it's not something that we do to estimate accurately the total project, right? Basically, we don't give the customer, okay, this project will take this amount of time and this amount of money, right? Basically, given the different projects, we put them on different kind of projects. Okay, this is a prototype or the stage that the customer wants to go for, right? Okay, you want to go for the prototype, for a minimum viable product, for a more mature and full bells and whistles product. And based on that, we provide them a kind of ballpark estimate on how long and how much it might take to create an MVP or a prototype and that kind of things, right? So actually what we do accurately estimate is the task and the features that we will include on a given sprint, right? For that, we have a sprint planning with the customer. It's a quite long meeting where we, along with the customer, the product owner, we define the things that for that sprint are most valuable for the product. We estimate those tasks individually with very accurate estimates. And when we have, things that cannot be estimated with short time frames, we separate that task in different subtasks in order to be able to estimate them in terms of hours. And once we have that very detailed plan for that sprint, for that period of 2 weeks, then we go ahead for that sprint. We develop that, we deliver that, and then we continue that process over and over, sprint by sprint, and adding what at each stage is most valuable for the product according to the product owner analysis. So yeah, that's more or less how we estimate projects and how we tackle projects on that sense.
That makes sense. So you take it very step by step and are working to create the prototype first, and then figuring out what all needs to go into that after that, versus coming up with a very like full-fledged cost and plan to start with. Helen,
Exactly.
what is that correct?
Yeah, that's exact.
Okay, great. Helen, what did MobiDev do for the ERP system? And in particular, there's a question from participants too around what do you consider to be billable? Is the architecture planning piece a billable aspect of your projects, and how do you break that all out?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, as I already said, we take this requirement solicitation, that's how we call it, stage, even before the project starts really seriously. So we have a pre-contract requirements analysis, which is usually not billable because we do understand that a new client doesn't know us, so they have to understand how we work and like have a chance to somehow check our processes, at least in a brief format during a brief period of our negotiations before choosing us as a development partner, hopefully for a long term, which is our main focus. So that is why usually this requirement solicitation is not billable, and sometimes it includes architecture planning, but of course it is then also required that the assigned team on the project take some time to get introduction into a new or existing project. And then also there are, of course, some planning activities done by the assigned team and the project manager at this as this project starts. But again, this pre-contract stage is absolutely common and is our best practices for both approaches that we might offer to our clients. So for this ERP case, as I mentioned, we have practiced dedicated team approach, meaning that it allows having a flexible iterative development process. It gives a chance for the client to bring some changes to a preliminary defined list of features and to then again make some major decisions during the actual development process. The budget is then formed on a dedicated team monthly budget in the format of charts provided for minimum cooperation timeline, and such a timeline is usually defined based on the client's preferences, our agreements, and some feasible minimum period to complete a project or its particular stage. Development is planned according agile methodology into sprints, and each of them is usually 2-3 weeks, as you all know. And on the contrary, this is another case, but I would like also to elaborate on this option because sometimes for some particular cases and clients, dedicated team with its flexibility doesn't work out when you want to have defined budget and timeline. Fixed price is actually the best option because this approach is all about setting exact expectations and even limitations for the project, while it doesn't allow almost any space for amendments to the development plan and documentation prepared at the first stage, which is called business analysis. Sometimes it is also accompanied by technical analysis and, if needed, design stage. So according this approach, only after all the requirements, expectations, and goals are documented into a number of valuable project materials, only then a precise calculations are made and an exact quote for development budget and timeline is given to the client. And then as a software development partner, we are obliged to fit in this quote, assuming there are no change requests made by the client then during the actual development process. So it really depends on the project approach, particularities, and how do they get into fit with the client's expectations, even some budget and timeline limitations. So that is why during this pre-contract stage, we take our time to brainstorm not only on the best possible technical solution, development plan, some stages, some necessary steps, but also on such collaboration conditions like a project approach, because as you might understood from my description, these two approaches MobiDev offers, they are drastically different. So it is very important to define what is a better fit for your particular project, and then just follow the predefined collaboration plan. That's it.
All right, thanks, Helen. So it sounds like it's pretty variable depending on how the project's set up and what the needs are of the client. Alex, how did you guys set up your project with Vimeo and how you estimated their costs and timeline?
Yeah. So and just I have to agree with the panelists that every project is a bit different. There's different approaches to the way we scope projects. Depending on obviously the degree of difficulty. Some of the simpler projects are a lot easier to estimate. But accurate estimation, and I think everybody can agree with me, is difficult at best. It takes years of experience to be accurately assess the time and cost of a complex projects like our example. The most important part of the step is in the process to break up the project into several different parts or stages, and then discuss every feature needed at that particular stage. And that's the approach that worked here. What we find that works best for accurate estimation is actually having actual programmers involved in discovery meetings or conference calls, not just account managers or project managers. This way, we can ask our clients questions kind of on the spot, and provide them possible solutions to their desired outcomes. We obviously record all of our conversations, and then we able to kind of refer back to that, and then come up with, spend a few hours actually coming up with a project plan, run it by the client, get any sort of feedback on modifications that we need to make to the plan, and then once we finally agree, and that sometimes involves, creating flow charts, basically showing the, each logical step after action is taken, and after that, we come up with, typically, either an hours or a flat price estimate, depending on, on the particular project and the particular client's kind of, desire. If they want to go for a flat price or if they want to go hourly, we, base the estimation on the information that we're able to gather.
That makes sense. So you'll work with the client through different conversations to break up the projects and then put that back down on paper and review it with the client once you've done all the estimations.
That's our focus. That's our focus is obviously, customer service and, talking to our clients, and obviously, being their partner and giving them the hand and the explanation needed to kind of, take their idea, which, oftentimes is either pretty rough or, not fully kind of thought out. They just have like a general idea, and then, turning it over with their approval, of course, but turning it over by using our expertise and our knowledge into an actionable plan that then we take to actual design and development.
Awesome. And so quickly then here, we'll wrap up with one last question, or one last planned question, and then we'll get to the audience's questions as well. What's one tip that you'd give to help clients match the right agency to their problem? And Alex, do you want to start on that?
Basically, it's it's just kind of it's just a discussion. I mean, sometimes you have to kind of go through several different companies. If you're using Upwork, to post your project, then obviously you have to look at the types of projects the client is. I mean, the provider has been taken on. I mean, the review history, and then you have to do interviews. I mean, that's the only way you're going to get to the right company. You have to talk to these people. Have to discuss what solutions they can offer. Sometimes it's could be a pretty difficult process, I guess, because you as the client gets a ton of proposals that you need to sift through. But you kind of have to take the time and not just read the profiles, but also reach out and discuss the project, because oftentimes additional information is going to be discovered during the conversation, or or things are maybe things are not going to work out, and this is not the right agency for you. But without just relying on writing a small RFP and then expecting you're going to get the perfect applicant, without any conversation is probably not going to work.
Are there any questions that you recommend clients follow up with during interviews to ask agencies to figure out which one is right for them?
Well, of course, the better preparation you can do in describing your project, that's the one biggest advice I can give. Kind of try to write as much details about your project ahead of this call. Be somewhat prepared. I know it's not always feasible, and it's certainly the case with frequently the case with people we work with. But if you can get prepared ahead of posting the project, because frequently it's just like a one-liner or one paragraph, and then everything else needs to be kind of spoken about. But if you could prepare and write out a good requirement list, or general understanding what features you would need, again, not in development terms, but just I'm looking for a delivery system, I'm looking to connect to existing application or something like that, just in general terms, that will save time in in picking the right candidates, because the right candidates will be applying for your job by reading the description.
Right, that makes sense. Just being really clear with what your ask is to the best of your ability, and drilling further into that in the interviews. Nicholas, do you have any other tips for clients looking to hire an agency?
Yeah, basically, hiring an agency, especially remote agency, the key thing is the trust, right? It's finding someone that you trust, that they will not let you down, and they will be up to the challenge, right? I think in any kind of business, not everybody is a good match for everybody, right? The same on our side as an agency, not every customer is a good customer for us. That depends on the kind of budget that they have, the kind of industry that they want their product for, the kind of a lot of things, right? And the same for the customer, right? Not every agency, and there will be different agencies that are good for different customers, right? So my advice is try to find someone that you feel in the conversations when you talk with them, you feel that, okay, these guys are the one that I feel that will be I will trust them, right? Because that's what you will need. You will need to trust, especially at the beginning. You will need to trust a lot on what the agency will provide you, right? Probably as something to do is checking references, right? That will be my advice for a client is, okay, you have an agency, they tell you certain things about what they can do, what they cannot do, and things that they have been doing. Check the references, take previous customers from that agency, call them and get see what they have to say, right? There's no better reference than a previous customer, and then you can also measure the kind of customer that they have been dealing with, big customers, small customers, similar projects. So yeah, basically that would be my advice, right? And try to get as comfortable as possible before engaging with an agency, right? In general, okay, you need to ask all the questions and try to do all that due diligence before starting the project. So yeah, that will be more or less my advice.
All right, thanks, Nicholas. So we have, really being clear in your project description from Alex, and then from Nicholas talking about checking the agency's references. Helen, do you have anything, like a quick comment around any tactical steps that a client could take when finding an agency?
Sure, yeah, so I absolutely agree with Alex and Nicholas. They elaborated in a quite an efficient way on the points like requirements, personal touch, some previous experience. I would add that even though budgeting and like financial figures are important for any business, we would probably ask you as your potential development partners not to focus all your attention on the quotes given, even on the especially on the quotes given without any decent requirement solicitation, because as there are many freelancers and companies at the Upwork from whom you might receive the proposal, it would be probably wise for you not to choose the cheapest one or the one that you think offers a decent price, but probably to talk to several companies with different background, different team composition, and previous experience, and then truly understand what is the key criteria for you to choose, whether it's really the cheapest budget and the cheapest rate versus the quality, or it's like quality without like any actually without any limits for budget, or you would like to be in the golden middle, so to say, and just make sure that this company will not only be your vendor, but that they will actually become your partner. I think that's a key point.
That's a great call out, especially focusing on not to focus on the budget really early on from a proposal when an agency doesn't have all of the requirements or fully understand what it is that you're trying to build, to have it be more of a communication and a partnership throughout the life cycle of the project. So we'll do a quick recap here and then dive further into some of the participants' questions. So we talked about when to use a technology agency, and that's really as a thought partner for a custom solution. If you need a full team that requires multiple skill sets, or if you have different anticipation of scope and technology changes, then you need that range of people that are able to tackle those different changes throughout the project. We talked a bit about how problems are broken down. So really understanding the client's expertise in the type of problem, and then iterating through prototypes and defining requirements throughout for projects that are a little bit less defined, or for ones that are have really refined requirements early on, going through those and really doing the research and understanding what is will be needed throughout the life of the project. And then finally talking about how you can estimate your budget and timeline, and it goes a lot along with the project management as well, with working through different sprints or defining milestones and a fixed price project up front. So with that, we'll take some questions from participants. And first one I have, which I think, Helen, you kind of referenced this when you were talking about your project. Do clients with a technical background instructing you on what to do help or hurt the project? You have thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that's actually might be a challenge. So from one point, it is really great to find common language with those people who understand the technical aspects your team is trying to describe. But on the other side, it really happens that even especially engineers, development engineers, they tend to have really different opinions on the, for instance, technological stack or the technical methods we might use for a particular project. But in any case, our role is only the role of consultant of the, meaning that we might offer particular options, which we always do with their advantages and disadvantages, but we are not the product owner. We are not the final decision maker, and we truly understand its difference. So we will always bring our clients' attention to the important aspects, in particular to the technical aspects. And if we do not agree, if we do brainstorm and our clients provide his reasoning or her reasoning, and then we provide our reasoning, but at the end we decide that to go with the client's decision because it is his product, it's fine. We will then just make sure that the chosen strategy will work out in the best way.
All right, great. And Nicholas or Alex, do you have any thoughts on that? Do you find it
Yeah.
difficult? On the flip side, do you find it difficult to work with someone that's not technical?
Yeah, no, I would say that in general we have both customers, right? We are a very good fit for customers that do not have technical knowledge at all, and we have a lot of experience dealing with that kind of customers and supporting them. I would say that probably the answer to the question is it depends on the skills, how skilled that technical customer is, right? If it's a high skilled technical customer, that helps, and in general, in our case, that helps and helps a lot because they do understand the complexity of the technical stuff and why things take, you know, a certain amount of time and that kind of things. I think that the problem might be when the technical knowledge of that customer is not a high level one, right? When they know something but not very well, and in general what happens there is that they tend to underestimate the effort involved in certain technical stuff because they don't have enough knowledge of that, and that's probably when it hurts most that helps. But in general, it helps. In our case, having a technical customer helps a lot because they do understand, okay, the complexity of things and why things might take more time. So yeah, that's more or less what I can tell you based on our experience.
All right, thanks. And we'll do one more question here before we wrap up, and then we'll try to get some answers to you via email as well for the ones that we didn't reach. But Nicholas, one question around, have you ever had changes during the middle of a project, and how were you able to handle those and approach
Sorry,
that?
I didn't get, did we ever have what?
Have you ever had different, like a client come up with different changes in the middle of a project, and how were you able to address that?
Yes, all the time, and that's why we use the agile methodology, right? In our core is change is welcome, and that's, we know that happens during development and mostly during new product creation, right? Changes happen all the time, and not even from the technical point of view, but mostly from the business point of view, the product development process point of view. So and that's the main reason of the agile approach and dividing in 2-week sprints, right? So basically, what is not modifiable is what you cannot change is the sprint of 2 weeks, but any change that you want for your product, anything that you find it has to be different, or new things that come are queued up in the product backlog, and we can tackle that on the next sprint. So yes, that happens all the time, and in general, especially for new products, it's good that they happen, right? Because in general, product owners, no matter how passionate they are about the product, how well they think they know their product should be, the reality is that when they actually start creating the product, a lot of things that they didn't even imagine happens. Things that they thought they were valuable are no longer valuable, and things that they didn't even thought about right now are very valuable. So that happens all the time, and that's how we tackle them, right? Dividing, focusing on this sprint and nothing more. We will take care of the changes on the next sprint, but not after 6 months, because we agree with the customer a 6 months contract, and we cannot change anything till that time, right? So yeah, that's how we tackle that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, so I think that concludes our time for today. Thank you all for joining the webinar. At the beginning, we'll send a recording of this out, and then also try to get some of the questions that weren't answered. But feel free also to email us as well with any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.